Welcome to a new series that we're creating with NowDecatur.com and our NowDecatur partner, the Economic Development Corporation of Macon County. Nicole Bateman joins us today, as well as Rocky Wilkerson from Workforce Investment Solutions and Dr. Chris Valdez, president of Richland Community College. We have a new phrase called transferable skills, or at least it's new to me. And since we've been in about 10 months of this pandemic, I heard a very smart person describe this pandemic as being an accelerator in life, meaning that things might change naturally over 1 year or 5 years or 10 years. All of that has been accelerated. We've certainly seen that in the workforce. And today we want to spend some time talking about transferable skills and maybe looking at careers in a little different way. If you're in retail, if you're in the restaurant business, we don't know what that life looks like for a very long time. It's great to have all of you with us because not only are jobs available in our community, there are so many resources out there to put those people into jobs. Nicole, in your role at the EDC, how do you see the Economic Development Corporation filling these gaps for the citizens in our community?
So there's a couple of roles we play in, when we're looking to attract new business, but more importantly, when the businesses that are already here look to expand and make investments, they look at the workforce and they look at those workforce pipelines and what additional opportunities are there to upskill folks to take those jobs here, whether that be in manufacturing or healthcare. That's a really important part that we're always fostering those connectivities in the community and bringing together, Richland and Workforce Investment Solution and the employers to make sure that we're all working towards that common goal of making sure that we have a skilled pipeline in whatever career paths that might be. Another opportunity that we see through the EDC is, where are the gaps? Where is the messaging to the community that's missing? We see a lot of people, as you said, that are out of work right now, but they know how to work. And that's the most important thing. They've held a job down by no fault of their own. That job isn't there anymore. So what can we be doing as a community to make sure that they know that there are careers available and that there are resources available there to help them get into new careers, and most of all, encourage them to take a look at that. That seems like it could be a scary leap, changing careers when it wasn't, in your plan to do that. And so we just want to be really encouraging and make sure that the proper information's out there so people can make the best choice for them and their families.
Okay, and Nicole, with economic development, that is true whether it's existing jobs or expanding jobs or new companies coming to town. I mean, that fits across the board, right?
It does. I was just meeting with one of our major manufacturers yesterday, and they said the exact same thing. They said, when we looked to expand here in Decatur, we looked at the talent pool and what do we currently have and what else can we get? And so our existing companies then also compete for talent with new companies that we'll be bringing in. And we don't want to limit our capabilities on expansion with our current companies and attracting new companies by not having a properly skilled workforce.
And Dr. Valdez, it seems to me that community college plays such a large role in this, and you guys have really taken a common sense approach over the years to be a job pathway to people. It's not about just coming to get a 2-year degree or moving to another school for a 4-year degree. You really have been one of the guiding lights in leading people to jobs.
Yeah, we try to do that, Brian. That really is our mission. We understand that 99% of higher education is about workforce development, and people want to have a job. And as Nicole was mentioning, talking to some of our major employers, they tell us they can't wait 2 years. Of course, we have 2-year degrees, we have shorter term certificates, but both employers and those who are underemployed are looking to start that career immediately. So we have programs that are as short as 10 weeks, and we partner oftentimes with Workforce Investment to help individuals enter into those, help them with some financial assistance, and get through those programs quickly so they can move into the workforce.
And Rocky, explain to us, if you could, Workforce Investment Solutions. What is it that you guys do?
Okay, so we are a federal employment training center, and I sometimes think we're Decatur's best kept secret because if you need a job or you're interested in going back to school or even just getting into the transitions mode, your first step should be workforce, because what we're going to do is test you, assess you, and find out if you're eligible for our funds. Because if you're eligible for our funds, whether it be as an adult, a youth, or dislocated worker, we might be able to pay to send you through RN school at Richland, or I might be able to spend tuition, books, and fees for the welding program or industrial technology or any HVAC programs. We might be able to not only pay your tuition, but pay support services, mileage, childcare, assist you with any barriers that might prevent you from completing your education or your training program. With that comes case management. So the piece that workforce can offer is actually two prongs. One, we will determine your eligibility. If you're eligible, we're going to pay the bills. We can also assist you by providing case management all the way through, because once we get you into the classroom, we're going to find out and make sure that you're getting tutoring if you need it. If you need additional services, we're going to make sure you get it. If you're having problems with transportation, we're going to address it. Childcare, we're going to make sure that you finish that class and that you're interviewing and you're prepared to get a job. And then I'm going to track your wages for 2 years. So we have a big investment in this partnership, which is why we depend on economic development and Richland Community College. I look at this as a triangle that Decatur has, and it is a win-win situation if you're a part of this triangle.
All right, Rocky, I'm assuming you meet people every day, and there's a tremendous amount of anxiety. I mean, it's one thing to say, oh, just switch careers. I remember 25 years ago leaving the Park District, and Bill Clevenger told me I was making the biggest mistake of my life to go do this radio thing. And it got me to second guessing myself, but it seemed like an exciting path, but it was scary. It's not an easy transition when you think your life is taking you down one path and all of a sudden you have to do something else. I'm sure that's something you have to walk through every day with.
It is. And I often hear people say, well, I don't have the skills. I've been a bartender my whole life. I don't even know the first step about going to RN school. And I say, well, let's look at all those skills you've accumulated as a bartender. You're responsible. You show up every time. You're handling difficult customers. You're providing customer service. You have math skills. We can generate those into higher level algebra, geometry to get you through. So I always encourage people to look back at their own lives and look at the skills. You don't even realize the skills just by living life every day. You are accumulating skills. It's whether or not you want to make the commitment that it requires to move forward. And really what is scary is that commitment, because you have to attend classes, you have to complete, and then you have to try. And that is the scary part, is especially if you've been out of school for a long time, or you've only done one job all your life and you're getting ready to start a whole new occupation, which is why we have case management.
And Nicole, when we look at a chart that says, wait staff and bartenders being turned into welders or retail workers becoming healthcare workers, walk me through that process, because these jobs are available right now in our community and they're high paying jobs.
They are. And so what we wanted to do is to connect the dots. We wanted to create a few visuals so that folks that may be in that situation, maybe they were, part of wait staff or a bartender in a restaurant, okay, how can you become a welder? For example, that's just one example. We wanted to look at those transferable skills. So if you're a wait staff and bartender and you want to become a welder, you're both going to need math skills. You know how to follow directions. You got to have the physical abilities and staminas for the job, communication skills, attention to detail is a big one, and multitasking, right? So those are just some of the transferable skills that you're going to have already that somebody might not recognize that they have. And so we wanted to kind of paint the picture, if you will, with the diagram. So if somebody falls in the wait staff or bartender bubble, they look at them and thought, okay, well, that's not too bad. I've got some of these skills. And then if they want to go on to become a welder, on top of those skills that they already have, you just got to be able to have the ability to read and interpret, some of the welding technology and the welding lingo. And then, of course, get the technology and tool training, and that's readily available at Richland. And so we wanted to show people some actual examples of career changes that seem like a far stretch, but when you put them together, it might not be as far of a stretch as somebody thinks.
Let's walk through an example. If someone is watching this and they say, hey, I don't know, variants coming in with COVID. We're going through constant phases of shutdowns and people being laid off. They come back for a few weeks, they could be laid off again. They're willing to have this conversation. Where do they start?
I would suggest they start at Workforce Investment Solutions. So they're going to be able to identify, kind of assess those skills where they're currently at, and then help them maybe, with a little bit of career training too. What is it that you ultimately want to do? What do you like to do? So that they're positioning themselves for a career that they hope to be in a long time, a new career that they hope to be in a long time. And Rocky, please add to that.
So we would have them fill out an application that they can download online, and they would make an appointment with a career planner. And like Nicole said, they would be tested, assessed. They would go through some counseling with their career planner, and then we would determine their eligibility. And they may find out within a couple days that we can afford to send you to the RN program at Richland, or we can afford to send you to the welding program. And we cannot not only pay the tuition, books, and fees, but we can help you with your child care and your transportation as well. And you will have a case manager to assist you to reduce the barriers all the way through the program.
And Rocky, what is that website? Where do they start?
They can get on WorkNetDecatur.org. WorkNetDecatur.org.
Okay, and there's an application process.
Yes.
Once again, I want to talk a little bit about that barrier, that threshold. This is the same with joining a gym or buying a Harley Davidson. People have these natural, barriers, and sometimes, a website you can kind of get lost. I mean, is there a phone number they can call? Can they talk to
Yes.
somebody in person?
And they can call 875-8720. They can talk to somebody. They can pick up an application at the front door, and they can drop it off. We have an overnight mailbox, little open door that's right outside our building.
Okay, and then I'm assuming that you're having these very normal conversations on your end every day, that people always
Yes.
believe that anxiety is kind of a just myself kind of thing, but you've walked hundreds and hundreds of people through this process.
Well, especially with the pandemic. I mean, we've had so many businesses closing, opening, closing, and staff's been laid off, and people are getting unemployment and stimulus, and they don't know how long it's going to last. They don't know if they're going back. There's a lot of insecurity that we're dealing with in our community right now. So now's the time to do your homework. Now's the time to find out, are there services to help me if I want to go back and go to school at Richland and complete this degree and start a new career? And this is when you do your homework. This is when you start investing. What does the community have to offer? Will I have help with case management and barriers and transportation and whatnot? So it's a perfect time to start looking at what's available to assist you in this process.
And Chris, I'm assuming you go through the same stories every single day at Richland Community College.
Yeah, we do. And the interesting thing, when you asked Rocky some contact information, I have a number of contacts too. And one of the contacts we have for people who want to start is Larry Peterson, who is Workforce Investment Solutions, because we work that closely together. And to your point, I would give you this number, 217-875-7200, extension 6329, and that will take you to Jennifer Sargent. She's our intake person for our short-term programs. Those programs come with a $10 an hour stipend, because we understand that people are underemployed or unemployed, and you can't just stop, even if you have a part-time job, you can't just stop that to reinvest in your life. But I think what's most important, whether it's Larry or Jennifer or Courtney Carson in our RICH program, these folks want to help. And we know it's difficult to reach out and say, hey, I want to change something that will affect the rest of my life. Just like your transition, who would have known what it would have been? But if you wouldn't have taken that first step, you'd be at the Park District. That might be great, but people need to be feel comfortable. And I think we provide those welcoming voices and welcoming people who want to say, hey, we want to support you through this, because we know it's difficult.
And that's the amazing thing I've watched over the last number of years in the success you've had at Richland, is having that support network for those students. It's not just sign up, pick some classes, and go about your business. You have step-by-step support and tons of success stories where you've taken people and turned them around and put them into careers in short amount of time. You see it every single day. You're probably not as best kept secret as Workforce Investment Solutions, but I do think people would be amazed at the number of job opportunities through Richland Community College. Walk me through some of those programs and what you guys are able to put people on a path towards careers.
Sure. Most of those programs are encapsulated in Enrich, and it really is short-term programming primarily for entry-level manufacturing. Includes CDL, over-the-road trucking, and highway construction kind of jobs. We also do that for entry-level healthcare like medical assisting or CNA, those kind of things. And the important part about what you were talking about, those are almost all cohort programs. So you're in the same training with another 10, 12, 14 people who are going to support you and expect you to support them 40 hours a week. We treat it much like the job because when you leave that, you're going to be expected to have those same responsibilities. Just two quick examples. We had a young man who was working at Walmart, graduated from high school. Nothing wrong with Walmart, but he wanted to do something different. Went through the Enrich Industrial Job Skills Training Program. He is now he's been at Caterpillar for about 3 months, making $24 an hour and being recruited by other companies, which will give him an increase. Another example, another young man, not so young, 51, spent 21 years in prison. Didn't have any references, any place to go, but had some skills. That man went through, he's working, he also worked at Caterpillar and then was able to transfer back to Tennessee with his family with another raise. It is absolutely scary, whether you're 18 or you're in your 50s. We understand that, but we think between Workforce Investment Solutions and Richland, we have that caring environment, but also we're going to hold you accountable and help you to get to your goals.
Nicole, I met a young man last year at ADM Trucking, who did the same thing. None of his friends understood what he was doing or going into this career. And he's constantly, by now would be surprised if he's moved on to the next thing because he constantly wanted to improve, but he couldn't see himself as a trucker, didn't understand that there was a $50,000, $60,000 a year job, only a few steps away from him growing up in Decatur. We're doing a much better job, I think, of getting that information out there. And I think it's because of collaborative efforts like this. We do this very well.
We do, and it's interesting that, we hear in this conversation that we're having today, the word welcoming and caring a lot. And in every community perception survey that we've issued, one of the very top 3 words to describe the community is welcoming. And I think that's not just for newcomers, right? It's for people in our community that are looking for a change or need some direction. There are plenty of organizations here that are welcoming and that want to help you. And you're right, we have done a much better job because we saw that as a gap. We have it's natural to have a lot of self-doubt and not to really vision, what your future is going to look like, especially if you've run into some roadblocks here and there. And there's been barriers, as we've spoken of today, that maybe you'd wanted to pursue in the past and you couldn't because of those barriers. Well, it's important that we look at our community and we look at the resources that are there to help one another. We're so good at it when it comes to time of crisis. We are in a little bit of a crisis right now. We're living through this pandemic. We got a lot of people that are out of work, and so let's make good on this. Let's pull people together. Let's pull together and leverage the fact that we are a large community with great resources, but small enough to care about every one of our people and get them back to work and get them off to a road to success.
And at the same time, this isn't putting a square peg in a round hole. These jobs are available. I mean, you go through an election cycle and politicians like to talk about creating jobs. What we're creating is connection to those jobs because those jobs exist.
They do exist. Just this month, we posted 1,000 new jobs. 1,000 jobs have been posted as open in Decatur and Macon County in just the past 30 days. And so we continually see that. So employers are hiring pretty much nonstop. And right now, they have to, during the pandemic, overhire to cover those people that are going to be off because of contact tracing and potential exposures. And so we're seeing a lot of that as well. But companies here, they want to continue to grow and expand. And so the more we can fill what we currently have, the more confidence they'll have to expand the companies that their businesses. But if we can't fill the needs that we have now, they're not going to expand here. And that's what we don't want to happen. And so we want to encourage those that we know you know how to work, you've held a job down, and by no fault of your own, that job's not there anymore. We want you to know that there are jobs in this community and that there are plenty of resources to help you if you want to take the next step and move into a different career.
Rocky, when people originally contact you, are they soon? I mean, are they surprised at the avenues that exist? That you've
Yes.
thought about these barriers that are there, and that you've covered all of these bases.
I think the money is the biggest surprise of all because most of the time when you're an adult, you think, I can't afford to go back to school. I've got a family, I've got responsibilities. That's out of my, just give me a job. And you think, well, you tested pretty well here. You've got 10 years of experience. Let's look at where the labor market indicates the high paying jobs are at for the next 10 or 20 years. And then when they find out they're eligible and that workforce is going to pay their books, fees, and tuition, and they're going to assist with childcare and they're going to reduce these barriers, they end up being the best students because they don't have to worry about where the money's going to come from on top of trying to pay the bills. So I feel like it's, when we partner with Richland Community College and we go through that testing assessment process and we determine eligibility, the pie in the sky would be you could pay for everybody. But even if you can only pay for 50%, that's 50% of those people are going to be able to go through and be ready to join the workforce. And the wages are good.
And Chris, what other scholarship availabilities are there in this community? I know the foundation works very hard on your behalf, but there's a lot of opportunities.
Yeah. First of all, if an individual is pursuing a certificate or degree, there's the free application for federal financial aid. Many individuals will qualify for both a federal and a state um, uh, funding, but we also have one of the most robust foundations probably in the country. Uh, Two-thirds of every two of three students receive federal financial aid, and every 1 in 2 students that we have receive aid beyond that. We have scholarships specific to programs. If you're interested in welding, we have welding scholarships. Healthcare, we have healthcare scholarships. We have scholarships they're based on need. So they're just a wealth of scholarships. Part of that, people just have to come and ask because at times we're trying to figure out where to put that money because we don't have people apply. One of the biggest concerns for folks entering into training is how am I going to pay for it, as Rocky has said so much. There are a number of resources between Workforce Solutions and our foundation in the federal program. There are a number of opportunities to help you pay for those costs.
And Nicole, how important is it for you to hear from employers? I know you have a survey that's out right now, about learning what that workforce needs to look like in the near and distant future.
It's super important because that open line of communications helps us to prepare. It does us no good if they say, well, we could have expanded or we would have invested in our operations, but we were lacking XYZ on the workforce side. Well, tell us that, right? If your company is anticipating workforce needs, make that please an open conversation with myself, with Chris, with Rocky, because then we can help, right? We can go out and we can try to find the people and upskill. That sounds like a simple task, but it's not. And so we need that time to prepare. We just had a survey out to most of our manufacturing companies, asking them to assess, what are your current needs? What do you expect your needs to be in 5 years? And we do that periodically, sometimes for specific applications and needs that we have and opportunities that we have in the community for training, and other times just to make sure that we're keeping that line of communication open. We're also now issuing a survey to talk about high schools, right? What kind of expectations do you have if you're looking to hire somebody right out of high school, or even have high school students working in your company, at the moment, thinking more about the retail and the restaurant side. Those are important conversations to have because in the school districts, we have about 7,000 high school students throughout the county. They can be training, and how wonderful that would be if each of those high school students came out with some sort of workforce experience, or at least workforce and essential skill knowledge to then move into, a college or certificate program or right into the workforce. We've got to continue to be open about communicating about that because we're not going to grow as a community if we don't.
We have made great strides, though, in recent years, thanks to the Howard G. Buffett Foundation and the creation of the Dwayne Andrews Ag Academy, and then how that extends to Richland. We think about all the agribusiness jobs, and we were not doing a great job as a community connecting those young people to those career paths. The Jerry Dawson Public Service Institute, what that means to the healthcare field. So we're getting better. I mean, that's the good news, right?
Absolutely. It's about that exposure, so I had the great opportunity and honor to fill in and teach on one of those first days at the Ag Academy. And as I expected, I asked the students, first question, after I introduced myself, how many of you right now see opportunity for yourselves in Decatur and Macon County after high school? Nobody raised their hand, right? And I said, okay, that's exactly why you're here today, because there is so much opportunity. But if we're not shouting that from the rooftops and we're not talking about it, nobody's going to see it. And that's natural. That's nobody's fault, right? Sometimes it's just really hard to see everything around you when you don't know what's out there. And when those companies and when our community leadership isn't talking about what's happening behind those really big manufacturing walls, or what's happening in those hospitals, what's happening, in our support service type occupations in the community, we can't expect people to know that. And so we've gotten a lot better about that, manufacturing days, the training, the Ag Academy, the Civil Leadership Institute. It's about exposure. That's the name of the game. And the earlier we can start that, the more those conversations can be fostered and those ideas can be fostered throughout the high school career paths. And then we can hand it off to, to Rocky and to Chris and all the crew out there that can make those into really successful careers for individuals in our community.
Well, this is just one in a series of conversations that we're going to have about connecting people to jobs and employment and careers in our community. Rocky Wilkerson from Workforce Investment Solutions, Dr. Chris Valdez from Richland Community College, Nicole Bateman for the Economic Development Corporation of Decatur and Macon County. Thank you for your hard work and continued success.